Hey, there we go. Randell, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Great to be here today.
So I need to know what's the role of a poet laureate? You're Ontario's first.
So it's interesting. I think being the first um, has a certain responsibility because you're building out the role, you're developing the framework, I'm hoping to create a legacy that can help the next poet laureate essentially. But it's pretty simple. In terms of the role itself, it's a nonpartisan role, an independent officer of the assembly, which means, just have my own office that I work out of and I'm not connected to any MPs or nothing like that at Queen's Park. And in addition to that, like I'm just really advocating for arts and poetry across the province.
Okay.
And my goal is to increase literacy within
Mm.
youth and young people that we work with. And in addition to that, I'm just hoping to encourage more young people to use poetry and art as a way to express themselves in a positive way.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, did you do research to understand what other poet laureates around Canada or North America do? Do you get to set your own agenda even like you talked about literacy?
I do get to set my own agenda, which is really great. It's really helpful.
Nice.
No one's telling me what to do. I check in, bi-weekly. I check in with them. And now that things are starting to open up again, I'm going to start working at Queen's Park more often and just seeing which ministers, which MPs I might be able to connect with,
Yeah.
or MPPs, I should say, I might be able to connect with. And uh, I think, it's it's interesting though, because uh, given the goals that I have, I'm just thinking about who I am as a person and what I've done and how poetry has really helped inform me. So it's interesting to be able to be in this position. And that's kind of where my goals come from because I really want to see how I can support the younger generation. I first got into poetry really from a teacher, a mentor, and I'm looking to do the same thing for other young people as well.
Sorry, tell me about that. You got into poetry because of a mentor of yours?
Well, she was a teacher at
A
first.
teacher? Okay, okay.
My grade eight teacher that became a mentor later on, but grade eight teacher who just saw something in me, man. Like I can't even explain. She just like saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at 13 years old, and that's why I'm really keen on doing the same because it only takes one person sometimes, one person to see your potential, one person to see your light, and to be able to say, let me help, let me support. How can I do so? So that teacher to this day we're still connected. We text each other every now and then. She's really cool, really cool.
That's really great. Was it directly with poetry that she saw? Like was it some writing or she just sort of had this belief that, you know, here's this kid and just maybe based on some of your work at school, I'm really curious if you have figured out, what it was that she saw in you.
I want to say it was the way I spoke.
Okay.
She would ask me a lot of questions, and I was one of those kids who got into a lot of trouble. And the only reason why I even ended up at that school was because I got into trouble. And I think it was just like, having conversation together, like having conversation with one another. And I think there was an assignment that she asked us to do where I wrote something where she said, "Have you ever considered poetry?" And I said, "No, I never even thought of the concept before that." So it was really eye opening, like a very great introduction to poetry because it was almost like cream for the first time. All these things that I was going through, all the things that people were telling me, being in trouble with the police and getting suspended from school, being angry, everyone labeled me. But for the first time, I got to look at this piece of paper and I saw my story on this piece of paper. And I felt for the first time like I was understood. Like for the first time,
Wow.
someone even gave me a chance to see me for me, instead of
Yeah.
judging me and labeling me.
Wow. What high school did you go to in Scarborough, I'm guessing, yeah?
Yeah, I went to high school in Scarborough. I went to Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa at the time, probably one of the worst schools in the province at the time, but also one of the best basketball schools, and that's why I went there for basketball initially.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, went there for Mother Teresa was my high school and changed my whole life. Like I really wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go to that high school.
Where is that? I'm trying to remember where Mother Teresa is in Scarborough. What's the main intersection?
It's in Malvern actually, so it's like east, kind of east end Malvern.
Okay.
It's near like Nielsen and Shepherd area in Malvern, not too far from Malvern Mall.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Wow. What positions you play in basketball?
I played more shooting guard because shooting was my before Steph Curry. I just really love the 3-point shot. But because of my size, I play point guard, but
Okay.
I like shooting guard more often.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Nice. Do you remember your first after your teacher spoke with you? Do you remember your first written piece?
I do, I
Yeah.
do.
Was it like a simple every other line rhymes or something like that, or
Pretty
what? Or
much.
did you create your own thing?
Kareem, I actually think every line rhymed. Actually, I think it was like every other line rhymed because it was just my journey of like being arrested, getting suspended,
Oh wow.
um,
Okay.
and just reflecting on what was going on. Because honestly, Kareem, I wasn't a bad kid. Like I wasn't, and I don't think there are such thing as bad kids. I just think there's traumatized people or
Hmm.
traumatized children, and often what happens is the trauma, if it's not expressed or if it's not dealt with or if it's not reflected on,
Hmm.
then it often turns into people projecting. And I know I was doing that. I was so broken inside as a kid that I was just projecting and hurting other people. So to see my poem for the first time, I think I just saw myself for the very first time after writing that first piece.
Wow. What was it like the first time? I'm just curious as a, I don't know, 12, 13-year-old kid writing poetry or having your teacher bring poetry up to you. I'm just thinking about my son who's turning 16. Um, what he would think of poetry, and I'm just curious, like what does a young kid think of when they say, "Hey, you should write poetry," or "Have you ever thought of poetry?" Is it like, "What are you talking about?" I'm just curious, like what goes through your mind?
I think what's interesting is based on the education system and what we're taught about poetry,
Yeah.
I often think about Shakespeare, and
Ah.
because that's my first introduction to poetry was through Shakespeare, and so what's really interesting is our education system often positions poetry through Shakespeare, and I think nothing wrong with Shakespeare, but that was something that happened 300-400 years ago that isn't as relevant today. Some of it isn't as relevant as it is today, and so as I've gotten older, I've recognized just growing up in hip hop culture, I think hip hop culture is what really kind of inspired my poetry because at
Okay.
first it was just about rhyming. It was about how do I find the best rhyme patterns, rhyme schemes at first, and just being real and raw and honest with my poetry. So I found that to be the most kind of helpful way for me to really see myself, in my poetry.
Do you remember that transition from writing to rhyme to writing? I think you said just writing truth. Do you remember? Was that a transition? Do you recall when that happened? The first time you wrote something raw, or have you always
I'd
been
say
like that?
I mean, it's always raw because
Okay.
I it's always been raw, but I think the first time that I really saw that I could take it further. So when I first wrote that poem, I think I maybe wrote a couple other poems, and then I just dropped poetry altogether.
Ah.
Grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, dropped it. And it wasn't until grade 11 I went on a field trip at U of T, and I saw a poet named Buna Muhammad who was performing on stage. And Buna Muhammad was I just like honestly, Kareem, the craziest thing is just imagine seeing yourself on stage and just seeing this person and I'll never forget. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that one day. Like it was very simple. Like I just knew I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that one day. And it really inspired me. So I went home and I wrote my first spoken word piece. Like I wrote a spoken word poem, which is a little different than poetry because I think spoken word just has more room to play with and more flexibility to play with than
Okay.
poetry.
Okay.
So seeing that, I picked it up again at 16 and then I dropped it again. And so it's interesting, they say the third time is a charm. Every
Yeah.
3 years, poetry said, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. And then finally at 19 is when I said, okay, I'm going to take this thing seriously.
What happened at 19?
At 19, I was going through a kind
Mm.
of a spiritual experience, like really coming into myself. I had just, dealt with death, like a near death experience. And I think I was just trying to figure out who's Randell. And so as I got into my spiritual practice, I went to this event, and this event just happened to have spoken word performances. And I
Yeah.
sat down and I was like, yo, this is amazing. I happened to go all the way to Brampton, Mississauga to see it. And I said, how do I bring this back to Scarborough? And so that's what really sparked it, just seeing poetry live and people gathered, people watching and listening and being inspired. That's what I was like, okay, boom, we got to do something with this.
Okay. And like this is it. Like you're doing. How long have you been doing it straight now?
I mean, going on 10 years,
Oh
10
wow.
years that I've been involved in poetry, doing poetry from workshops to performances to organizing events,
Yeah.
starting my own not-for-profit organization. Like a lot of that is really based on, yeah, a lot of it is really based on what I saw when I was 19, that third time.
Rise is your nonprofit. Is that correct?
Exactly, right. Rise Arts and Community Services, or Rise Edutainment. It's a social enterprise that I have.
Yeah. When did you start that off?
So April 16th of 2012, which is almost 10 years ago in 2 months,
Oh
is when I
wow.
first started. We first kicked it off just really as a just a safe space, a platform that we could all express ourselves. I just found in Scarborough we didn't have anything, like nothing that you can go to talk about what you're going through within the community. So we just started off as a safe space, and then it grew into, developing talent, developing artists. And then we found a way to kind of build a booking creative agency to support artists to get employed and get paid. And that's a
Wow.
social enterprise. So we get artist opportunities to get paid through the creative agency. And then we have an incubator, which is a not-for-profit that develops the talent. So they kind of figure eight, feeds into each other.
That's cool. And this is a Scarborough-based organization.
Scarborough-based organization. Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting. I thought I had heard of this name. Maybe there's a something that's very similar that's out there. Like that's I don't know more like Toronto based down in the center of Toronto. What they call the east end of Toronto, but is it Scarborough? You know that whole
Like
that
East
area.
York.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I want to talk about that, but I want to sort of I want to tell me you talked about spoken word and the differences of poetry. I've had a couple of poets on the show, and I don't know if I've ever asked this question. What's the difference? I think you explained a little bit, but I wonder if you can go deeper in terms of the difference between poetry and spoken word.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very slight difference, For me, poetry is is often just the written piece of it, and it can be performed, of course. This part of it can be performed, it can be shared. I guess I often see it as like spoken word just has more room. You just have more room, more opportunity to play with it. It's more theatrical in the writing, it's more theatrical in like how you create. I just think it has more room. And then
Hmm.
the origins of spoken word were really created in Chicago. Chicago, the origins of
Okay.
it were really like jazz, hip hop influenced, like influenced by jazz and hip hop. And it was just, it didn't have to have a rhyme pattern, didn't have to have any scheme, but poetry often sits within the realm of like rhythm and cadence and rhyme schemes, where spoken word doesn't necessarily have to. It's more based on like cadence, but it can and does have some of it, but there's so much more you can kind of do with it.
That's really interesting. Um,
Hmm.
you talked a little bit about your teacher, who's now one of your mentors, and I don't want to sort of skip that whole entirety. And then I'm sure you've spoken about it many times, but you talked about being a kid that was in trouble, and I read somewhere that you ended up graduating as a valedictorian. Um, that's like a mind shift, right? It's not something that you were a great student and all of a sudden you become awesome. It seems to me that there was a mind shift from someone who, yeah, you tell me, like, what was that like? Besides the teacher, was that teacher more instrumental than just saying, hey, have you ever thought of poetry, and I think you've got great things in you? Like, what did you do yourself to change maybe the trajectory that you were on?
I think, Kareem, I've always been a leader or always had leadership capacity. So I had a teacher in grade 5 who would always ask me, Randell, are you going to be a leader or are you going to be a follower? Every day, like every day. And I still talk to him to this day too.
Yeah.
And he
Did
would
they tell
ask
you
me,
what a leader is and what a follower is, or
he did. He kind of broke
yeah?
it down. His name was Mr. Fry, and he actually I just remember what he did. He broke it down to me, and he explained what a leader was, and he explained what a follower was. And for me, he was kind of trying to get me to understand that a leader is someone who, has a vision, someone who follows their own path. And I was following some of the guys, in the community. And, the grade 8 teacher, I'd say what she did for me, she really gave me an opportunity to see myself. Because again, when you're a troubled student, all the teachers write you off.
Mm,
I've heard teachers say things to me like, you're the worst student I've ever had in 31 years of teaching. I've
jeez.
had teachers, just speak ill will to me, like and I'm not saying I was perfect, but I don't think those are things you say to a child if you want them to improve and be better. Um, so ultimately, I think and reflect back, and the shift in mindset really came from when I got to high school, because I'd already gotten in trouble, with the police at a younger age. So by the time I got to high school, my mindset was different. That grade 8 year was a very transformative year for me. And if anything, the mindset just really came down to, I want to be more. Like I just want to be more than, the guys in the hood, because I also had the opportunity to move, and I left the neighborhood I was living in. I was living in a troubled neighborhood at first. So when I moved, I was being surrounded with different people. I was seeing different things. I was learning different things. And from the very beginning, Mother Teresa has always had a focus on leadership. So they take us to things like leadership camp, and um, now it's not the greatest thing to say, but meet to week conferences we go to,
Mm,
and things of that nature. So I was just exposed to other leaders. And then I had another teacher in grade 10, Miss Noah, who just got me involved in advocacy. She got me involved. So we'd like go downtown and hand out sandwiches to some of the houseless people downtown, or just do like things for the community, things for the school community, fundraising. And then eventually I got involved in like after school programs. And then I got involved in, so I got kicked off the team, not even kicked off the team. I didn't make the team in grade 11. They're,
okay.
guys were taller, they were stronger, faster, whatever. It is what it is. I was just really good at shooting, but they had that already. So I didn't make the team in grade 11. And that's when I had a breaking point, because at that point I said, well, if I'm not playing basketball, then who am I?
Mm,
Because that's all I went to the school for, to play basketball. And because basketball had me thinking about who I could be, I just really wanted to get a scholarship. I just wanted a free education. That's really my focus. And I think basketball set me on a trajectory to realize that I can kind of shoot for the stars. Okay, now I'd say pun intended. Gave me an opportunity to shoot for the stars. So that's when I had to pivot and realize that I could do something different, that I could get involved in like school programming, student council. I could host events at school, like kind of things like that. So the mind shift was seeing myself as a leader, and then having teachers and mentors around to see that kind of come into fruition.
nice.
And can I add something, Kareem?
Of course, yeah, yeah.
Last thing. In grade 12 was probably one of the most transformative years. Okay, grade 8 was transformative, but 12 was more transformative. I went to India, and then I went to Las Vegas, and then I went to Orlando. So this was within the span of a year. I went to Orlando for something called the National Society of Black Engineers. And I saw people for the first time that looked like me, that were successful for the first time at 16 years old. That was one. Two,
Okay.
um, going to India, I learned about happiness. And I think India at 17 years old, coming from the neighborhood that I came from, India just like, we went there to volunteer, but just seeing what I had here in Canada, and seeing some of the difficulties that folks were dealing with in India, and then also just the love and the happiness in India, I never came back the same after that. Not to mention
Wow.
a week after India, I was in Las Vegas. So you can imagine, like 5 days after India, I'm in Vegas. You can, two totally different spectrums. So it was really, really eye-opening at 17 to see the world in a different light.
Was the India trip through your high school?
Both were through my high school, actually. So that's what I'm saying about my high school. Like my high school is doing great things for us. If you got involved, there was great opportunities for you to do
Wow.
more.
That was
Hmm.
the India and Las Vegas, or
Yeah,
that
India
was
and
the
Las Vegas.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Orlando, the engineering conference. Is this something that you thought you wanted to do, or
Not necessarily. I
okay?
think I think, I just wanted to get involved. So the only like Black student initiative we had at school was the National Society of Black Engineers. And although it was geared to engineering, it was more focused on getting us into university and like focusing on, doing more essentially than just being like neighborhood kids. So Orlando and the Las Vegas trips were just a year apart, but they're the same thing. So it was both for a national conference, the National Society of Black Engineers. So that was a conference itself, and that's why I ended up going to Orlando and to Las Vegas.
Okay. How did you end up being like being involved in some of these clubs and organizations at school? Was that just being at Mother Teresa? Like it was almost like every student had to belong and be participating somewhere?
I mean, ultimately, it's me. It was the teachers, man. I gotta say, it's the teachers. Like the
Yeah.
teachers, they would encourage me to get involved in certain things,
Okay.
and for me, I was just really open. I was really open to getting involved, and because the opportunities were there, I didn't want to leave. And honestly, like being in grade 10, grade 11, like there's opportunities to get out of school. I was like, okay, cool. Like I can go out of school and get free lunch and not have to pay for anything. Of course I'll do that. So
All
that
right.
was one thing that's what got me there. And I think
Okay.
what got me through was the teachers that found, oh, I got this leadership opportunity. Oh, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing that. Oh, we're doing this. And I just became like the staple person. And I even got like the school spirit award because of all the opportunities. I just got involved in everything. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to just do something. I don't know. Like I just wanted to make my mom proud at some point.
Yeah. She must be proud now.
Oh man, yeah, more than ever. She every now and then she's like, "I saw you on TV." So it's nice.
Nice.
It's really nice.
That's sweet. Um, what what was happening with you, or what transpired? What was the impetus to create Rise?
The impetus to create Rise really came from a near-death experience. So it
Whoa.
was, almost losing my life in a stabbing incident, where my friends wanted to retaliate. My friends wanted to basically, violence was inflicted upon me, and my friends wanted to use violence to inflict upon the guys who did what they did to me. So the reality was, I realized that these two, like my friends and the guys who did what they did to me, were not very different. The only difference is I knew my friends to be people who are going through some real extreme, tumultuous situations. And because I knew of that, that's why I said, okay, well, I think we just need a space. I talked to different people. I asked different people, hey, what do you think we could do? And the one thing I kept hearing was, yo, we just want somewhere I can like be, like I can be around my friends and connect and build. And I want to say that's the one thing that really propelled me to want to do something more. It was almost, yeah, almost dying. Like I think the funny thing about life is that death helps us appreciate life a little bit more.
Hmm.
So that's what really got me going, got me excited. And poetry, just like what poetry did for me, I thought, man, if that grade 8 teacher can do that for me, I wonder if I can do the same for other youth in Scarborough.
Yeah. So when you hear, I think it was this past week, there was a kid that was stabbed in a Scarborough school. Um, what goes through your mind? Do you get flashbacks of what happened to you? I'm curious if the system reaches out to you or you reach out to them. I'm curious, what's going on with that.
So the school is actually walking distance from where I live,
Oh wow.
unfortunately. Yeah, so I could walk to the place of the incident. When things like that happen, I do a lot of work with the TDSB. I'm involved with the TDSB quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if there's ever an opportunity to go in and speak, I'm always happy to. But it doesn't, I think what's tough though, Kareem, is
Yeah.
whenever we do hear news about Scarborough, it's often negative. When a shooting happens, it's like, yeah, in Scarborough, So I'll tell you an example. When I
Yeah.
saw the
Yeah.
shooting that happened in Scarborough, just after that, they talked about another shooting in North York, but they just said North York. They didn't say anywhere specific in North York. They just said North York. But there's this negative connotation about Scarborough that just kind of plasters it as a bad place. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, things happen, but when I hear things like that about Scarborough, it reminds me that's not the big picture. That's not the whole picture of what Scarborough is. But it also saddens me that it's
Sure.
happening at all, because this is a 14 and an 18-year-old kid. You know, an 18-year-old kid who lost their life and a 14-year-old kid who shot. So I feel responsible. I feel like maybe there's more I can do. Maybe there's a way that I can get involved, um, in a more intimate way,
Yeah.
essentially. And so
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking. I'm not gonna lie, it's really heartbreaking, because I know great people that work in the system that just feel like, man, if I'm gonna help these kids and then they're gonna get shot or think that shooting somebody is okay, I know it's really hard for the teachers and the educators in the system too.
Yeah. It's rough.
It's rough, man.
Yeah, that's for sure. Um, when you were chosen to be your high school valedictorian, um, what's going through your head at that time? Is it something you were striving towards, or was it like, was there flashbacks to like grade 8, grade 9, grade 10?
Uh Man, I guess the first thing that came to mind was, I don't think I can do it. That's what I
Huh.
thought. And then I had a teacher that said, hey, we're selecting the valedictorian. Have you thought about applying? And I was like, oh, no, I'm not really thinking about it. But another teacher came and said, okay. And then a third teacher said, no, you're applying. I don't care. Like, you're going to apply. And his name happened to be Mr. Destiny.
Oh my
And
goodness, of course it is.
yeah, right. Like Mr. Destiny. He even continued to mentor me after high school. But I love that guy. Like Mr. Destiny is the one that advocated for me. He helped me with my speech and all of that. So I didn't really think it was possible for me. But the most memorable moment, I would say, was perhaps standing on stage and seeing my mom in the audience, and my mom's kind of tearing. And just to make my mom proud in that moment was really, really gratifying, because I know all that she had to go through, to see me get to that place. My mom's a person who, she worked in a at a graveyard shift, from 12 to 8 a.m. in a factory, standing, having arthritis in both of her knees, and a little bit overweight. So I knew that I put a lot of pressure on my mom, and a lot of hardship and a lot of stress on my mom. So when I was standing on that stage, it was really great to be able to understand that my mom, like, I just wanted her to see like her work didn't go in vain.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So let's get to Rise. Um, you started as an organization, mentorship, helping people, and then giving them opportunities as well, working with brands and organizations. And I came across, I guess, something that you're doing now, I guess, with Holt Renfrew. Um, so talk to me about that, because that's an, could we call that a client of Rises, or is that how you properly? Yeah. So tell me about that. How did that come about, and tell me about some of the stuff that you're doing with them.
Yeah, for sure. So, when I was first appointed, Holt Renfrew brought me on to do something called the Literati Campaign. And it was about like, authors in across Canada, who were also kind of fashionable. So they selected three of us to be involved. And we maintained the relationship over time. We stayed in touch with one another. And I guess ultimately, they reached out because they wanted to collaborate with Rise and to see if we can do something more, which I thought was great. So, it's more of a partnership. I think because the way we
Okay.
work together is more of a partnership. Sure, you can consider them a client, but I just think it's like a partnership because of the way they showed up. They showed up in ways that I was really happy to join and support. And again, because the social enterprise is really designed to get artist opportunities, I was also able to bring artists on to get that opportunity to get, on a larger platform, on a larger stage, to really be able to, showcase their talent as well. But the campaign is what a lot of people don't really know, but they of course supported, like, paid us as artists to create. They brought on, Black folks behind the scene, because I don't know if you know, but a lot of times in media, it's a lot of folks that don't look like you or I, behind the camera. But they were able to get a director that was Black, a director of photography that was a director of photography that was Black, a photographer, the hairstylist. Like, we were able to bring a cast of people that were Black to do
Hmm.
this Black History Month campaign. They also donated some money to the not-for-profit for us to continue doing the work that we're doing. And then they highlighted 20 Black organizations across Canada, and they highlighted their founders as well too. So I thought this was a great campaign for Holt because, or a great partnership with Holt because it served many purposes. And the way they approached it was not so, it wasn't performative. It wasn't say, hey, we want to do this thing with you to make us look good. Like they really care. Like who I was working with, they really care. And they want to change the way people see Holt. They're new to the company, but they want to change the way people see Holt. And
Okay.
just a great campaign, really good campaign to work with them. I mean, Holt has their history, but it's just good to see that they're moving towards like they're really doing the work. And I like to see that.
That's amazing. Can you tell me about some of your other projects that you've done, through
Yeah.
Rise, other organizations, other initiatives?
I mean, man, there's so much to say. Through Rise, we've had the opportunity to work with the city of Toronto to create the Toronto Youth Equity Strategy. We partnered with them, and this is a strategy that was created in terms of how to support youth over the next 10 years. That happened in 2015. We, through Rise, have done an exchange where we've been able to bring artists from London, England, to come, and we also went over there and did a bit of an exchange. We're still friends to this day. Through Rise, I've been able to do programs in Ghana. Through Rise, I've traveled to Mexico. We've done a film with the Art Gallery of York University called Rise. And we had two filmmakers from Brazil come in, and they stayed here for about 8 months. We created a film that was a part of Nuit Blanche and the Toronto Biennial of Art. I got to travel to Mexico to speak for the premiere of it. That film has also won an award. Through Rise, we've partnered with Nuit Blanche, and we've done we created a film about Scarborough called Within. Man, I've done a lot. But that's just some of it. But also, like, what I'm really proud of through Rise, and I take no credit. I want to say Rise and I don't take any credit for this, but I look at artists like Lou Calla, who would come to our open mics weekly, come to our workshops weekly, to learn and to grow and to be better. And then people like Toby, who's growing. Toby came to our events to perform, to kind of get connected to the community. His producer, his DJ, is someone that he met through Rise. So there's so many people that have come through Rise. JP Sachs, Looney, like there's some really incredible people who are doing some really good work on a musical end. And I think I'm just most proud of that. But honestly, Kareem, I'll tell you, the one thing I'm most proud of with
Yeah.
Rise is the friendships and the relationships that have been created. There's people who are friends to this day, 10 years later after meeting. There's babies that have been born. People have gotten married after meeting at Rise. People have gotten engaged. Like, you know what I mean? People starting businesses. So
Yeah.
it's just great to be able to create a platform for people to connect and build a community. And you see how that benefits people ultimately.
I know the past couple of years has been different, but I'm curious. You said you're based in Scarborough. Um, did you guys have like an actual place, or was it more of renting community centers or halls or whatnot?
It was definitely the latter. We would
Okay.
have community centers that we'd rent. We
Yeah.
had a long-term partnership with the city that we did something at Burroughs Hall for about 7 years before the pandemic hit. Unfortunately, we did one event in 2020, and then the next week, pandemic, and we were done. So that's pretty much how we've done it. But then we've also expanded outside of Scarborough, and we've done events downtown, many events downtown. Actually, we had a monthly event happening downtown at a different book list at 918 Bathurst. We've done stuff at Daniel Spectrum. We've done
Hmm.
stuff many places. Just different partnership opportunities. And a lot of it is just having a good team, having people around that see the vision and want to see it come to light. And it's exciting. It's really exciting to be able to do the work we do, and it's shifted throughout the pandemic. So now, for the last 2 years, what we've been doing is doing it virtual. So we were once on IG, on Instagram. We
Yeah.
moved to Zoom. But what's been good in a way about that is just other people that have come to perform from like Ohio, from
Wow.
LA, from California, from Florida. We've had people from, I think not Arkansas, Arizona, like just different people from different parts of the country, London, Ghana, like people, people who probably obviously would not have come on a Monday night in downtown
Yeah.
or sorry, in Scarborough, but were able to come regardless.
Nice. So things haven't slowed down just because we all sort of started hibernating.
I mean, they have, but they haven't. You know, they
Yeah.
slowed down because being in person, it's like, you know, this fast-paced energy of being around people, but they slowed down because they're more like online now. But and they slowed down because we would have been doing like bigger concerts, festivals,
Sure, sure.
had we been in person. So yeah, we slowed down, but
Yeah.
we didn't stop. I think what we loved is we didn't stop. We just, like, you know, word of the year, pivoted.
Yes, that's true. Um,
Indeed.
I really love this. Is it the Scarborough Health Network Foundation? That campaign that's going on. How did you get involved with that?
So, you know, my mom's been in the hospital. She's had 3 surgeries on her knees. Um, my my nieces, my nephews, my godchildren were born in Scarborough hospitals. People I care about would be using Scarborough Hospital. So they first came to me with the campaign. And I guess between you and I, like, well, not between you and I and the listeners, if you're
Yeah.
listening, um, they actually wanted to get the weekend to be the voice of the campaign.
Okay.
And you know, it didn't translate, it didn't work out that way with the weekend. So when they reached out to me, I mean, yeah, I was honored. I was like, me replacing the weekend for sure. I would love to, you know. And it wasn't even about the clout. It wasn't about the clout. I think it was more so thinking about why the Scarborough hospitals, 3 Scarborough hospitals, only get 1% of the funding across the city. How is that even
Hmm.
possible? You know? So they broke down the numbers, and it was almost like I couldn't say no to that. I could not do it, you know? So the way this works is it's $100 million campaign for 3 hospitals, because the hospitals in Scarborough receive, you know, such little funding. And one thing I learned about hospital funding, for those of you who are listening, is that the way hospital funding works is donors like you and I have an opportunity to donate. Let's say you donate $1,000. The $1,000 that you donate, the government will match with the other half. So you donate 1,000, the government will match and donate another $1,000. So that's how hospital funding typically works.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate because you know, we're not getting enough donations here in Scarborough, but also it doesn't mean that the province, the city can't support in seeing the discrepancy, like in terms of, if St. Michael's is making $200 million a year, but Scarborough's only making like $100,000. How does that equate? You know, how does that equate? How does that make sense? So that's really how the campaign has run. It's still running. It's still going to this day. And our goal is really to raise awareness, that more people know um, the discrepancy, the imbalance of funding for hospitals here in Scarborough.
All right. Yeah, I just picked up one of those hoodies.
Ah, nice,
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah, I went on and purchased that. So that is what I'm waiting for to wear. Hopefully I
amazing.
get it while it's still cool.
I know, right?
Otherwise, this time next year I might have gained a few pounds and it might not fit. But
Hopefully not too
anyway,
much.
yeah. What's been your favorite on stage performance, or one that you remember fondly?
Man, yeah, Kareem, I gotta go into the crevices of my neurons right now to even find that out. Um, One of my favorites was probably with Dwayne Morgan.
Hmm.
Uh, I got to perform with Dwayne Morgan for myself, Dwayne Morgan, and someone named Thunderclaw Robinson. Each of us, because we're all 3 different generations, um, we all came to the approach of, what would it be like to have more people that look like us, so we could see what success looked like. And so it was for the Economic Club of Canada. They brought Barack Obama here in 2 years ago,
Okay.
and we got to open for Barack Obama. So I think that was my favorite, you know, my favorite performance. Opening for Barack Obama, 5,000 people, 10,000 eyeballs looking at us, and we were flawless. Like we knocked it out the park. To this day, people are still talking about it. And it wasn't the performance, but I think it was like the poem. The poem itself was really powerful.
Hmm.
All 3 of us came with a really, you know, amazing vision for the poem, and I'd say that's my favorite stage performance. And I remember, Kareem, like, there's one moment where I almost made a mistake, and if I made a mistake, it would have threw the whole thing off. We'd have to start all over again. So I was so proud of myself because my mind went blank, but like muscle memory. It was almost like muscle memory said, nope, we're not forgetting in front of these people, you know? And of course, nobody knew, no one knew, but
Yeah,
you know, the nerves kind of got to me for a slight second.
sure. That is awesome. That's really,
Mhm.
really good. Do you remember your first?
Yeah, my first performance, we had a talent show at school in grade 11. I decided to do a poem that wasn't my own. I tried to memorize it and I failed at
Mhm.
memorizing it. On stage, I also happened to be the host, so I had to come back on stage afterwards and say, hey, you know, enjoy the rest of the performances, even though mine wasn't the greatest. And I'm a bit critical of my performances, but yeah, I made a big mistake. I read a really great poem that I loved, but I just couldn't remember the words. Had a bit of stage fright being on stage for the first time with, you know, like 400 or 500 of my fellow classmates, students looking at me. And that was my first performance that I would say. But I'm just proud of the younger me that he even went, you know, without feeling so confident. I still went on stage and I at least tried. The least I did was try.
Nice, awesome. Uh, I got some Scarborough questions
All right,
to ask you.
sure.
Um, your favorite neighborhood?
In Scarborough,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. Yeah, favorite because of
You
sorry.
get to define that.
My favorite neighborhood would probably be Markham and Ellesmere. I lived there for 12 years.
Okay.
You know, there's a park, there's good food, it's close to the highway, it's very accessible by transit. Scarborough Town Center is right there. Uh, U of T is right there. So that's my favorite just because of location.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
my favorite because of like experience would probably be um, it's a place called Sylvan Park. The park is called Sylvan. It's like an extension of the Bluffs. It's a little bit east of the Bluffs, and it's just a beautiful place to be. I love, like, really, really, really love being there because of its calmness. It's serene. Once you walk and you see the water, you see
Yeah.
the lake. It's almost like you're not in Canada. Like, it just has a very beautiful viewpoint. So I'd say, you know, in terms of location, Markham and Ellesmere, in terms of like views and experience, I'd say it's kind of the end of Scarborough Golf Club and Kingston. Got to go to the end of Scarborough Golf Club.
Did
So
you
that's
film something there?
I did actually
Is that what
with Complex Canada. Yeah, I
I
did. I
thought? Yeah,
did.
okay, okay. I mean, that's maybe what are we? Because as soon as you said bluffs and favorite, I'm thinking. I think I saw something with you and. Okay.
That's it.
All
That's it.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, so your favorite park?
Oh man. uh if it's not Bluffers Park, I probably would say Port Union. I really like Port Union. It's really,
Okay,
really nice.
that's right at the
Thompson
border,
Park is nice.
right? Right at the
Right at the
border.
border. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
right at the border. Port Union's nice. It's really, really nice. You can walk for like a little while before you get to Pickering. But Thompson Park's nice because like Thompson Park is the barbecue. It's like the picnic, like the summer picnics for families. That's where you
Yeah.
go, you know? So I like it because you end up seeing people you haven't seen in a while. And it's just nice to see families there. And I walk in the summertime, I usually walk there in the summertime in the mornings.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it's a very interesting park, and
Very.
sort of where it empties off by the hospital on the east
Mm,
southeast side,
yep.
and it's got the dog parks. And I remember there's they usually have like a barbecue fest,
Rib Fest.
rib fest.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. They'll have a rib
Yeah, man.
fest there.
Every
So
year.
yeah, that's right, that's right. It's a nice park. It's a nice park. I don't think it gets the love that it deserves. It's also got like a little small museum there, I think, an old home or whatever, right?
Yeah, Scarborough Museum. That's where it
Yeah,
is.
that's right,
Yeah,
that's
man.
right. Um, favorite restaurant?
Why you gotta do me like that?
You okay? So you can pick a few because I know there's different varieties and different types, right? So, if
For
you've
sure.
got a favorite Hakka place or a whatever,
Okay,
you
that
get
makes
to
it easy. Okay.
you get to choose.
So favorite Hakka place, I'd say
Oh,
China Cottage is my favorite Hakka place. Fredericks is amazing too, but China Cottage. Oh, you know about China Cottage?
Okay. Which China Cottage? Ellesmere?
No, Steel. I like Steels. I like
Oh my
Steels.
goodness.
Yeah.
If you ever come, see, because I'll tell now you know where I live. If you ever come to China Cottage on Ellesmere,
Hmm.
let me know ahead of time.
I will. I'll ring you. I'll let you
you
know. I'll let
you
you
ring
know.
me. You let me know.
I like that one too. I think recently, I think the first time I went there, I wasn't as impressed as the other location. But
Okay.
the last time I went, they actually have some really good stuff recently. I've like really enjoyed what they had recently.
What's your favorite dish from there?
Man, they've got this like really. I mean, I like anything Hakka. Like their Hakka noodles are really nice.
Yeah.
They've got this spice and pepper tofu I really like just
Oh.
crispy and crunchy.
Are you
Um,
vegetarian?
Yeah, I'm vegetarian, but
Okay.
before I was vegetarian, like they had like what's it called? Like sweet and sour fish. That was really, really nice.
Did you ever
Um
have the Hakka fish?
oh, so good. So good. So good. Yeah, but I've had that before. So good. Like so
Yeah, yeah.
good. That and the garlic fish is pretty good too. But I mean like just about anything with the fish that they made. I think I had almost all. Yeah, at one point I've had all the fish that they had and never complained about one of them.
Yeah. The owner
Um,
literally walks by my house every morning.
oh really?
Yeah, it's just funny to see him.
It's a small world, man. It's a
It
small
is.
world.
It
Um,
is.
yeah, I love Scarborough for that. But I'd say next in terms of Thai food, like the
Ah,
best pad Thai would be Jack to Jack. Jack to Jack, in my opinion, has the best pad Thai. Um, Malaysian food, I really like. Um, Taiwan or Thai in the Rock. They got some really good Malaysian food over there. Vegetarian food, I'd say Ital Vital, my favorite vegetarian food. And yeah, I'd say that's about it. Oh,
yeah.
Johnny Shawarma. They got a really, really good shawarma or really good falafel. Johnny Shawarma's at
I
Kennedy and
drove by
Ellesmere.
that. Yeah, I drove by
Kennedy
that
and
recently.
Ellesmere. Yeah,
Canadian
that's
Ellesmere.
not too far from you. It's just it's like
Yeah,
so if
yeah.
you're going on the highway on Kennedy, you're heading to towards the highway. It's just before you get to like where the metro is.
Yes, I've seen that. I don't know where I was driving, but I remember seeing that because as soon as I saw that, oh, I wonder if that's Johnny Burger's cousin or something like that. If you mentioned that Shawarma's. Um, favorite? I don't know. Do you have a favorite? Scarborough's known for strip plazas.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite plaza or a favorite mall?
Uh man, I mean, that's a tough one too, man. The one I grew up around the most was Cedar Brae. Like Cedar Brae was the one I grew up around most. So I'd say Cedar Brae
Yeah.
because I frequented it. And it's not the best. I'm not gonna lie. Cedar Brae's not the best when it comes to finding things, but they do have a couple hidden gems. Um, but yeah, I think I'd say Cedar Brae just because I'm more familiar with it. Yeah, I'm more familiar with it. I mean, across the street, I'm forgetting the name. The one at VP and Ellesmere was Parkway.
Parkway Mall.
Yeah, Parkway Mall. I've had some good experiences at Parkway in the past, but they
Yeah, yeah.
have upgraded though. Parkway has upgraded, so I haven't been to it now that it's been upgraded. But I do remember in the past they had a couple hidden gems.
Randell. So I live like down the street from
Okay.
Parkway Mall. So China
Hmm.
Cottage is in between the mall and me.
Okay.
So I'm at my parents' place. They live on Bridletown Circle.
Hmm.
So I'm at my parents' place, and my mom has all these albums, and I'm going through them, and legit found a picture of my mom, me when I was 2, 3 years old, sitting on my dad's yellow Datsun in the parking lot, and in the back is that iconic arch of Parkway Mall,
Ah, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that.
right?
Wow.
Where it's Metro now, but I can't remember what it was. I think the picture's a little bit too blurry for me to make out
Hmm.
what the name of the places, but yeah, that place has been there forever.
Ever.
Yeah,
Long
yeah.
time. Long time. Long time.
When you mentioned Cedar Brae, I remember Cedar Brae, the library across the street. Is that Cedar Brae Library that's across the
That's
street?
it. That's
That's a
it. Yeah.
great library.
Amazing library.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know if you were ever a library guy, but do you have a favorite library?
It's funny. It would probably be Cedarbrae.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time, whether I was studying or just looking for books or printing or, you know, printing resumes. Spent a lot of time at Cedarbrae Library.
Nice, man. Rindell, man, this has been fun. I've had some fun chatting with you. I really appreciate it.
Likewise, man. I really like your hosting style. Just very calm, easygoing, you know. Because you got me like I think the way you were asking questions just really got me feeling very comfortable to like open up. And it's not to say I was closed off or anything like
Sure.
that. That's not what I'm saying. But I think yeah, just appreciate the way you host. Appreciate
Thank
the way
you.
you make the guests feel comfortable. So thank
Oh,
you.
well, thank you for sharing. Uh, Anything that you wanted to chat about that maybe we didn't talk about yet?
I guess the only thing I'd say is just as I'm talking about Scarborough. So, you know, we talked about malls, but right now, Scarborough Town Center,
Hmm.
myself, Dwayne Morgan, and Paulina O'Keefe, we are
Yes.
the curators for the inaugural year of public art, the City of Toronto's year of public art. And so we've been curating and contracting artists to, you know, come and share their art. So right now we have a couple installations called Scarborough Heroes. One of the Scarborough Heroes is Dwayne Morgan and myself, in addition to like Cardinal Fischel and Deborah Cox and a number of different individuals. That was done by Joseph Bonsu. And then we have Scarborough Chic, that's also there, done by a good friend of mine, brother of mine, Anthony Geber Hewitt, and he took the photography for it. Amazing, amazing exhibit. It's still there to this day. And then we have Scarborough slang. And so, if you want to learn a little bit more about Scarborough slang, there's actually a kiosk that you can click videos and learn about Scarborough slang and learn about the I guess the etymology of Scarborough slang, the connotations of Scarborough
I
slang as well. And I love it
okay.
for that very reason. But if you're at Scarborough Town Center, please go check out these installations. One is at Bay Court. Another one is just beside the Bath and Body Works, and then the other one is near the Shoppers Court. So check it out. I think you'll really appreciate it.
I've seen some of those superheroes. Uh,
Yes,
Amazing, just really really fun. I did
indeed.
not know that there was Scarborough slang. I,
Yeah,
I'm I'm gonna have to check this out. Uh,
it's a little hidden.
okay,
So when you walk into the mall, let's just imagine Muji. So Muji, you know Muji?
I don't know where it is though.
Do you know where
If
the
I'm at the if I'm at the top level
Yep,
near Bath and Body Works, and there's also like
yep,
a yeah, so Bath and Body
marketing
Works and Lululemon around that area.
in that area. So
Yeah,
let's say you were at Bath and Body Works.
yeah,
If you're at Bath and Body Works, you're gonna walk back towards where the Samsung kiosk is,
yeah,
towards where the TTC entrance is,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you're gonna be walking on that left lane. You'll see kind of like a wall that has a picture of myself, Dwayne, and Paulina.
Yes,
And
yes,
so
yes.
if you slide, like there's an attendees that are there. You have to go during the day, ideally between 10 and 5, 10 a.m. and
Okay.
5 p.m. Um, there are times like the times will be displayed, if anything, as well. And so it's called 226, and that's where slang is inside of there. So you can have more of like an intimate experience with the installation.
Ah, okay. Maybe that's something to do. Family Day Monday.
That might be fun. I think that'd be
Yeah,
really fun, man.
we'll go check it out. Randell, if people want to find out more about what you are up to, what events are going on with Rise, where's the best place for them?
So I'm more frequent on Instagram. So you can follow me at Randell Adjei on Instagram. For the organization Rise, it's Rise underscore Rise underscore EDT. So RISE underscore EDT. You can also find me at randelladj.com or rise edutainment.com. And to find out more about the Poet Laureate, you can find it at ontariopoet.org.
Awesome. Randell, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Kareem.
That was good.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, that was great. That was really, really